You read David's Psalms, that man was passionate. And he was passionate about all of the things of Yah. How I love thy law. It's more sweeter than honey, more precious than gold. These are words of love and passion. It's like a love letter. All of you felt that way at some point. Hopefully you still feel that way. But what he's saying is, be careful. You could lose all that. And then where are you going to be? All right, we'll begin with Marlene.
Hi, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So it was a really good teaching, and I felt really thankful because I believe the Spirit of Yahweh is here, and every service we get a poke from Yahweh, so we can never get complacent if we are truly listening. There's always something to work on. So,
well, it's not about listening if we're ready to receive, if we're truly able to receive. Because a lot of you are listening, but you're not able to receive, or you're only receiving in part, okay? So
well,
it's a very important, it's a subtle distinction, okay? Because you say, well, if we're really listening, no, receiving is different, okay? Go ahead.
And so I see that as always keeping a spark alive, like you were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was thinking about when you were talking about idolatry, the Christian construct of JC. You know, he's being worshipped, and he is, you know, the Christmas ham, Easter bunny, you know, Messiah. And so...
Wait. So I thought of Messiah as the Lamb of God. Now you're saying he's the Christmas ham? And he's a bunny? And people think I'm rude. No, go ahead. Go ahead, I'm teasing.
Yeah, so, you know, it's totally idolatry, which isn't being seen, you know. I mean...
They're connecting them to these things that are completely inappropriate.
And then the lust, like you said, you know, us to open up our mind and not think of it like necessarily sexual, but just whatever we want or whatever we don't want. Like with the Sabbath, you were talking about that one person that, you know, they had a tennis game or whatever and they didn't want to give up, you know.
Right.
And
call it, I just thought of this. Call it strong, passionate, personal preferences. Right? Strong, passionate personal preferences. I don't want, I don't like, I want that, I like that. Okay, but you're passionate about it, which is why it matters more than the person who told you, no, you can't have it. Okay? Or told you to do it and you say, but I don't want to do it. So call it strong, passionate, personal preferences. That's what lust is scripturally, okay? Is that good for everybody? All right, go ahead.
And also to maintain the, well, I mean, I guess it is a challenge with some of the translations like the NIV that talks about thus, you know.
In Mark 7.
Jesus made all food clean or something.
Mark
you know?
7, yeah.
And so that's leading more into that delusion that Yahweh has changed things, you know, and so... Okay,
but let me just stop because that's a perfect example of like a Jezebel, false doctrine, false understandings that the NIV, Zondervan and the NIV, added, even though it was in parentheses, they still added to the verse in Mark, you know, when he says it's not what goes in the mouth but what comes out of the, you know, that violates or defiles a man. They put, thus Jesus made all foods clean. And that's not in any Greek manuscript. That's not in any translation by anybody until it showed up in the NIV. And by the way, for all you guys who think, oh, but I don't use the ISR, I use the complete Jewish Bible because it's the NIV. It's the NIV with Hebrew names, okay? Everything that's wrong in the NIV is in that book because Zondervan published it, okay? And Stern, who helped write, you know, he consulted on the NIV, he was given permission to use it for his book. Okay, so it has all the things wrong with the NIV. All right, go ahead.
And so I'm thinking about when I first don't even know what version I was using at the time, but I remember reading in what was that? Leviticus 11, right? That has the kashrut.
That is correct.
Yeah. When it said not to eat pork, and I remember reading it and felt strongly that I was inspired that this is for me today. And I didn't know one other person that didn't eat pork. I didn't know one other person, And so...
And now everybody you know doesn't.
But in saying that is that, that's something that can be a lustful thing, that you want to control what you eat. You don't want anybody telling you can't eat. And it was a challenge. Shrimp was a challenge. Now, pork, there's turkey ham, turkey bacon, turkey bologna,
John, knock it off. Okay.
Yeah, there's there's all kind of different things for ham options, but not shrimp options. But
they make fake shrimp. They do. Anything you want, if you're a vegetarian, you can find fake. They don't care about kashrut, but if you're a vegetarian, they'll make fake crab, fake shrimp, fake whatever. Oh
okay.
Yeah, it's there.
I don't even think about that. But anyway, and then when you mentioned how you stop people or repackage what is said from the mic, I really appreciate that because it's helping us be in one mind of in Yeshua, like the unity of Messiah you talked about. It keeps us, and you're not like you said, for the other people, the kumbaya people, they don't want to say, no, that's not right, whatever, but, I appreciate you, and probably helps you being a New Yorker, to be able to speak your mind like that. So thank you to you and your mom,
Look, he picked me to do a job knowing the personality I had, okay? And so, it's no accident that I have this particular approach because that's what he wanted for this particular thing. He could have picked anybody, So, yes, I'm sure all of those things account for it. The fact that I have a Jewish background, but I have a secular Jewish background. All these things were part of, the makeup that he wanted from this position, at least for here, okay? Go ahead.
So awesome. And most of us moved here because we believe that m.t.o.i is the only ministry that is preparing us for what's going on in Revelation. Personally, I remember even before I started walking with Yeshua, I don't know why I was Catholic. I don't know why I read the Bible, but I did. And I remember reading Revelation thinking, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to endure this? Like, how am I going to be prepared for this, And I prayed that I would find a way, I would find people to be with, when I was a kid. I don't even know how old I was. And I remember thinking, I want to make sure I'm with people who can endure whatever we're going to endure in Revelation, if I see that, but I feel like I found the people, and I'm so thankful to be here.
Praise Yah. Okay,
I think that's all I want to say. Everything else is personal notes for myself. Oh, and I want to say, I'm also blessed that, every service we're able to see, it's a mirror for ourselves to see, like you said, the good and the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So in Revelation, he's praising them, but also saying, but you still have stuff to work on, so I think we get that every service, every you, Elder Billy, Rabbi Tom, everybody who gets up here, I believe that we get all three of those.
Which one of us is the good, the bad, or the ugly?
No, we get it. No, it's the mirror.
I know.
I
know what you meant.
Every one of you all holds the mirror up, so we see the good stuff in ourselves, and the ugly stuff is definitely not fun. We don't.
I know I'm the bad, so you guys got to fight over good and ugly. So, All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I know. So, The ugly stuff we don't want to see, we don't want to believe that it's the truth, but we have to see it in order to transform.
And you can't see it unless you get yourself into a mindset of being able to receive. Okay?
Yep.
You have to
Hallelujah.
be open to see it. All right? And I know Janet's saying yes, because as a therapist, that is really a hard part of her job is can I get the person, when they come to me for help, to actually be open to hear the truth about what they're dealing with. I get that all the time when I counsel. It's like, I can tell you what's going on, but if you can't receive it, you can't receive it. I mean, there's nothing I can do with that, right?
Okay, so it will be very helpful, Rabbi, I was trying to find number 1, 2, 3, 4 until 7, and I may have missed some of them.
7 what?
When you were talking about, some of the 7 things that you could potentially fall into, like, you started with, the false emissaries, and then you said, we were going down the list. There's 7 of them, correct or not?
I don't have a list.
Okay, all right.
I don't have any notes.
Okay.
Wait a minute, let me look at my notes and see the list of the 7. Who do you think I am, Mr. Charles Stanley? 7 things that, whatever, 5 things that,
You said 7, that's why I thought you had your list, but that's fine.
I don't even remember saying 7.
I
think I said several. I'm out of 7. I didn't count them. I didn't have a number.
There is a few that I was able to. I just want to make sure that I have them all so that I can compare
Go back
them.
and listen. I don't
Yes. Okay, I will.
All right.
But it seems like most of them were very similar. They were pointed to
Sure.
the flesh, they were pointed to false emissaries, they were pointed to people who are giving you like a.
The things he's saying
false
to these
doctrine.
assemblies is very
Exactly.
similar.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so with I appreciate that. I really like what you said about how you define lust, when you were saying that it's a strong, passionate, personal preference. And that could be about, that's connected to what you want, right? Like what I want. Is that related to when you always say, well, it's not what you want, it's what he wants? That's connected to that desire that you have, correct? That one can have to go and do something instead of what he says.
I mean, look, we have preferences or whatever, but we won't have to get them to line up with, contextually with him. In other words, it's not about every single thing I want to do or prefer. I have to check with him, but we should know big picture-wise what things are in the category of we need to be concerned with what he thinks about it, all right? So if something comes up related to, for example, doing something or not doing something on Shabbat, that's related to him. If something comes up about do I rent or buy a car or lease it or do I get this color, that has nothing to do with him. You understand what I'm saying? There's nothing anywhere in the scripture framework that says that that matters to him. There are things that matter to him are very well, listed and described very well in the book, in the scriptures, okay? So we want to make sure that we are aligning ourselves in terms of our desires and preferences in those areas with him, okay? But you're also welcome to have, he wants to see what creative other thing, what are your passions, okay? Some of you may have a passion for, gardening and flowers and making, beautiful stuff like that, okay? And some people could care less about that stuff, but we have preferences. And here it doesn't matter. He doesn't care if you like flowers or if you like animals or if you like, architecture, if you like, these are your personal preferences, right? He doesn't care if you like Italian food, if you like, Mexican food, if you like French food, if you like Spanish, it doesn't matter, okay? As long as it's clean. You see what I'm saying? The context has to do with what aspect of it has to do with that. I think that's the best example, okay? You could eat Italian, you could eat American, you could eat French, you could eat Spanish, I don't care what culture's food you want to eat, just make sure it's clean, okay? So you don't have to worry about the style and flavors of it as long as the food is clean. So whenever it is you desire, you have to ask, is there something contextually that makes sure I'm in alignment with him in the framework here? Is there any aspect of this that he touches on? If the answer is no, do what you want. I've had people ask me on a regular basis, well, I was thinking of doing this or that or the other thing, and I wanted to make sure that, whatever he wanted. And I said, well, what do you want? I don't know, I want to do whatever he wants. He wants you to make up your mind, okay? Now, if it's something of him, I tell him straight out, well, you can't do that, that's against Scripture, all right? Or you have to do this, he requires it, right? But if it's not, I'm gonna say, well, what do you want? So if you get a what do you want, that's because you're allowed to want, okay? What you want is allowed, okay? You're allowed to want, okay? But he wants you to want what he wants. So he doesn't say that he should be in alignment with all of the things you want, or that you have to line up everything you want with him, but if he wants something, you should want that, okay? But he doesn't cover every little thing in here about every little thing that you could possibly want in your life. So when you go shopping for dresses and clothes and whatever you're wearing, he's just gonna want you to be modest. Otherwise, get whatever you want. He doesn't care if it's red, blue, green, yellow, whatever it is. He doesn't care. He just be modest, right? Okay, so you have some framework and then lots of room to do whatever you want, okay? Lots of it. Go ahead.
That's really, really good. Okay, so going with what you say, he wants you to want what he wants. Is that connected to, the verse 4, which was my next question, that, that you have left your first love, keeping that first love for him, like doing all the passion, all the things, all the energy that we brought in when he opened our eyes and how much we wanted to listen to. I mean, like, I was listening to your teaching like day and night, like nonstop, is getting it all in, and so excited the first time we show up for the first feast, and it was just, I mean, we were way up there, right? Like really, really wanting to get it right, because we came from a place that was filled with false teachings and we didn't know anything. And
right.
Finally we found you and we were like excited about it, So that love, that first love, I mean, aside from the passion and all that, but is it about connecting what you want with his desires, or is it the emotion part of it? Or is it both? Or can you?
No, it's what it doesn't say here is your first works. It says your first love. Because the things that you did when you first fell in love, with the teachings, with your husband, with whatever, you might not be expressing it today the same as when you first met him or when you first started listening to the teachings, but that doesn't mean you'd feel any differently. So the expression of it may look a little different. So maybe you don't listen to teachings all day long, but your desire for the teachings is the same, your enjoyment of them, but you're not in as big a need of like having a vacuum of information that you don't have that you need to fill in with, right? You got this void that needs to be filled. So it's about the passion. Make sure you don't lose the passion you had when you first fell in love with him, with the word, with the truth, etc. It may not be expressed in the same way, okay? When I first met my wife and was falling in love with her, we went out on these dates and I was trying to impress her and she was trying to impress me and we did all these things. Now, we still do some of that, but not the same way, and it doesn't get expressed the same way because we're married 27 years now. Now, hopefully we find a way to keep that passion level where we're still just as excited about each other. And the same thing can happen with our walk. I mean, you might have gotten, almost all of you I know, when you first started getting the truth, you got so excited about it and disturbed by it at the same time as all your pillars of what you thought was right was wrong, and you had to knock all these pillars out and everything. But yet, where are you now? Are you not still passionate? Okay, I praise Yah that after 700 plus teachings, okay, because you could be in a coma right now if all I did was teach the Torah portion cycle every week and that's all you got. Okay? And even then, I still find new things to show you or new ways to express it when we do them Friday night. Okay? Because I've had people tell me who go to certain congregations that are not part of us, but are congregations that all they do is the Torah portion every week. And the guy's like, if I got to go through that cycle one more time hearing the same thing every year because they say the same thing every year, I'm going to shoot myself. I mean, because it just... it's hard to maintain that passion. So praise Yah, you've gotten teachings to stir your passion for the last 15 years. Every week, okay? And let me tell you something, I praise him because I sit there going, what do you want me to do once his teaching finishes, I have to come up with, or he's gonna give me the next one that keeps you passionate. That's part of, I'm past the point of, well, almost, past the point of teaching you stuff that you need to know that you don't know. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm running out of things to teach you that you don't know. But somehow I still need to keep your passion stirred up, your first love where it needs to be. Okay, that's to me is part of my role. Because that's where the strength comes to endure till the end. See, a lot of marriages fall apart after so many years because that's gone. Now, of course, granted, they probably did the things that happened to kill it. Okay? So it's not like it just years in itself kills it. It's neglect, it's picking and nagging and criticizing and all this other stuff that kills it. Things you did not do when you had your first love. Okay? And so part of what I pray about when, and I like these longer teachings because I know what I'm teaching and I know that I have material and everything, but then I have to go, okay, Abba, what do you want next? I've already taught everything. Well, not really, because he always finds something else. But I've taught all the things I wanted to foundationally lay out there is there. Now, that was something that made it easy for me in the first 15 years because there's so many things like, okay, I got to teach them about salvation, I got to teach them about kashrut, I got to teach them about the holy days, I got to teach them about the Sabbath, I got to teach them about, covenant, I got to teach them about, all these things, right? I had grace. I had all these foundational things to teach you guys. Well, now they're all there. And I am not like your church pastor is going to do the seasonal teaching every year that you're used to hearing, okay? I want you, if it's on record, it's your job to go back and listen to it. I'm not giving it to you again and again and again and again and again. You go back and listen to it as many times as you want. It's on record, okay? You don't have to come in like back in the old days and ask somebody to make you a tape, because we didn't have internet. Children, we lived without internet. We couldn't Google anything. We had to look in a dictionary or an encyclopedia, which was a physical book, okay? All right, so, stuff wasn't just broadcast and available. And so it's there. I'm not redoing them. And some of you are like, but you have redone them. Well, old teachings, way, way old teachings, that were not on YouTube, that were just on audio only, that kind of thing, I've redone. And some of them I redid because I feel more free now to more thoroughly express the fullness of that idea. So something that maybe was done in 2 or 3 parts is now done in 20 parts. But it's because I'm digging deeper into every aspect of it that I can. But I've done that for so much of it that there's very little for me to redo also. There are a few teachings still that I could redo that are old enough that really weren't on YouTube yet. So it was before we used cameras, we just recorded them. So they're audio only. But for the most part, I'm always wanting to make sure that whatever I'm doing is doing 2 things. 1 is giving you the material you need to actually transform into him. And 2, keeping you motivated, passionate about that journey, okay? I don't want you to come in here and go home bored, all right? I'm not trying to entertain you. I'm saying I want you to have material that goes, oh my gosh, that was great. I can use that. I don't want, oh my gosh, that was great. It was entertaining. It's like, oh my gosh, that's true. That's me. Write that down. Okay, I need to work on that. And that's all his inspiration, okay, that flows out, right? So that's the thing. So when you talk about your first love, it is an emotional place. It's that passion. Because remember, he starts off in Deuteronomy saying, I want you to love me, which starts off as a passion before it becomes an action. Okay? You read David's Psalms, that man was passionate, okay? And he was passionate about all of the things of Yah. How I love thy law. It's more sweeter than honey, more precious than gold. These are words of love and passion. It's like a love letter, okay? And so all of you felt that way at some point. Hopefully you still feel that way. But what he's saying is, be careful, you could lose all that. And then where are you going to be, okay? Don't forget, don't have these words that you have left your first love. You don't want to hear that. So it's not left your first love as in you don't love this or that anymore. It's you've lost the passion. It's just an idiomatic phrase saying you're not passionate anymore. Okay? Good? All right.
Yeah, very excellent. Very good, always. I love how you were connecting it with marriage. You know, like we've also been married for a while, 23 years, I think, this year. And I feel like our love is much more mature now. Over the years, there's so many things that we endure, go through, and we're stronger. And I think that that's the way our relationship with Father is too. Like at the beginning, as we start to walk Torah, we get to know Him and get to know Him more, and then we get to go through trials and we trust Him. And you know, there is a lot of maturing in that love. It gets getting more stable, more stronger.
But underneath it, it still has we'll call it less mature, just the passion. It gets expressed in a more mature way, and the passion is based on more mature reasons, because the initial passion is caused by more surface reasons. He's cute, she's cute, whatever, they're funny, they seem to be smart or this or that, whatever attracts you initially, those are more surface things. So by the time you get older, and some of those things go away or diminish in some ways, but we have more mature reasons for our passion, right? Okay? But it's still the passion, okay? You guys don't get to see this. Well, maybe a little bit sometimes if you're hanging out enough when you can see. But I act like a goofy kid around my wife sometimes because I want us to still have that playful goofiness even though we were married 27 years and we're in our 60s, okay? And at home, there's lots of that, all right? Because I want to always have that, that energy in our marriage where we're having fun and, it has that playfulness and, okay?
I find it beautiful when parents show affection towards each other. My kids don't necessarily find it fun. They get grossed out.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Okay, listen. All you parents need to hear this. Every child will never admit this. They feel safer and better when they see mom and dad loving each other. They will absolutely act like they're going to choke to death on their vomit when you do it. Okay? Ew! But if you were not doing that, they wouldn't feel as safe and as secure and everything else. Okay? It's not a conscious thing. If they see mom and dad not talking, never interacting, or only fighting and criticizing, but if they see dad come over and put his arms around you, give you a kiss or something, they're gonna be like, ew, come on, okay? Okay, it's because they're not comfortable watching it, but deep down, they're like, this is good, okay? They're happy, everything's good in the house is secure, we don't have to worry about any breakups and divorces and all those other problems, right? So yeah, children are going to always act that way, but underneath, it's the best thing for them. Don't be embarrassed to be affectionate within limits, okay? All right, in front of your children, all right? Okay. Let them know that you love each other, okay? If your children never see mom and dad hugging or giving, like if I come home and put my arms around my wife and give her a kiss when I haven't seen her all day, they need to see that. Not that I'm going to go find them to do it in front of them. But if they're there, they need to see that, okay? No, we're not going to get into a makeout session. I mean, get a room. But let them see that you care. And yes, they're going to make fun and everything, but they're just teasing you, all right? That's when you look at them and say, oh, come on, you love it. And that's it, Tease them right back. Okay? All right.
Thank you. That's reassuring.
Yeah, I'm just,
That's what we've been doing anyway. So, okay. My last question, Rabbi, are you open to receive, right? So, you were giving an example, right? I do have several clients that come, especially couples, but everybody. And with the couples, I usually do like 2-part sessions. First is like a marriage assessment, second one is individual, and then I bring them back to kind of tell them what I think is going on and what can we work on, right? And so some will say, thank you. I really wanted to hear what you said, right? And they receive it. And they will do anything and everything to turn the marriage around. And some others, not so. But I compare it to when we come to you, when I go to you, okay? I had the chance to talk to you a few weeks ago, and you really listened to me, and I listened to you too, right? It was beautiful because it helped me to resolve something, and to change even some the way I was thinking about it, and it had a very good fruit, and so it's so important. I just wanted to say it's just very important to be open to receive, because many times, like you said in your teaching, many times you may have already an assumption or an idea about something, or you may think that you're right about this situation, but many times you're not. And you being our leader, and obviously the voice of the Father, you have a lot of wisdom that we get to experience and share, and if we receive it, then the fruit and the blessing is there, and the peace comes with that. So, and it often does when I go to see you every time. So I appreciate you, Rabbi, for being there for us.
Good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Look, the way that it kind of gets phrased out for you guys is, or the concept is, when something is said to you, okay, the idea of being open to receive, doesn't mean that you receive it just assuming and just saying that it's right, but can you not subjective, objectively consider what was said? Okay? See, it's when you're subjectively considering it, because you've already convinced in your mind that the other person's wrong, or that you're a certain way, or the world is a certain way, or this is a certain way, or that's a certain way, then you're not going to actually consider. See, can you openly, genuinely say, I wonder if they're right. I wonder if that's true. I wonder if I am that way. I wonder if that is this way. I wonder if the world, can you actually consider it? That means you're open to receive. Now, you still may decide you disagree. So it doesn't mean that you're open to receive, it means you then have to agree with it. But can you receive the information in an objective way, without preconceived, predetermined biases towards the information? Okay? Now, that's that openness that we're talking about.
Just real quick, you were mentioning earlier something about people accusing you of being a raging egomaniac, and that you didn't find your teachings or anything at that level anywhere else. But there's a reason that most of us moved here. So just want to say that.
Because you were entertained by a raging egomaniac.
Or because we didn't find anything else, at least anywhere else. So it's for a reason.
Look, let's talk about being objective. So you take a person that comes here, moves their life here, thinks I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread until I say something they don't like, okay? Their lives are impacted in incredible ways because they're applying the teachings and everything. And all of a sudden, they don't like something and they think I'm an idiot and I'm this and I'm accused of everything under the sun. Where's the objectivity to recognize, but wait a minute, what about all the other things that you got from this ministry, from my mouth, that you never got anywhere else? Okay? Rabbi Tom will tell you, because Rabbi Tom has been doing this way longer than me. Okay? When he came here, he's already a rabbi. And he could tell you that he learned more in just a short while when he first got here than all the years before that, because the message that's coming through this ministry is different, with different levels of clarity, with different levels of understanding, of explaining things that have always been confusing or straightening them out, or whatever it is. And yet, if that's all true, which is why you all moved here, okay, some of you might have moved here, and most of those people have left, though. They moved here because they just wanted the social aspect of being near other people who are walking the walk, all right? And so they didn't actually come here for the leadership and the teaching. But 90% of you plus all came here because of the teaching. And yet, at some point, you get offended by something because you're not able to receive, or you just didn't like the way I said it, whatever, because you guys love it when I'm smacking somebody else's toes until it's your toes, all right? And so then you forget how I was used for all those things that were in your life that impacted you in a positive way. All of a sudden, like, that disappears. But that's foolishness, okay? That's foolishness. By the way, some of you guys do this in your marriages, okay? Your spouse is doing all these wonderful things and scoring all kinds of points. They do one dumb thing, all the points go away. That doesn't seem very right or fair. I mean, there should be, if we're using a point system, it should be, if I scored 100 points and I do one dumb thing, that's only 1 point. So now I'm at 99. Why does one wipe out the whole 100? But that happens a lot. Ladies, you do it worse than the men, okay? All of a sudden, anything he did just was whatever, gone, was done for wrong motivation, was just doing it. It was just a show, it was just this, it was that. He didn't really, no, he made a mistake, okay? So why you wipe out everything for one mistake? So he made a mistake, let him apologize. Same thing with the women. Men, let them apologize, let them own it if that can happen, you know, and don't wipe out all the things, you know. Don't wipe it all out. It's just foolishness. That's why a lot of these marriages end up in divorce. I'm like, but you guys are doing great up to a certain point. Now, there are some marriages that are never doing great, and I don't know why they're still married. And then they'll come and do counseling. I'm like, well, how long has this been going on? Well, 30 years. Well, why haven't you done anything about it? I don't know, okay? And so that's kind of different. But a lot of you have things generally going well, and you let some little things fester instead of being dealt with, and you're not valuing enough the good aspects of it. Okay? Because look at all of the things that we just read. You did great with this, you're doing great with that, but I got this thing against you. Okay? So am I supposed to ignore all the good things? He says, no, listen, but if you can fix some of these things, everything is going to be great. Work on these things that you need to fix, but otherwise, we're still good. You know, I'm proud of you, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're holding on to this, you're enduring that, whatever it is he said, right? I know your works. He didn't say, look, I know your works, but who cares about that? You messed this thing up and that's it. But he doesn't say that.
So earlier, you were talking about how we could do a lot of the right things, and you were just kind of explaining that where we could be like eating kosher, keeping Shabbat, helping others, etc. But the most important thing you mentioned was, well, what are the things that you're not doing that you need to be doing, or vice versa? And one of the things that, you know, I'm guilty of this is we severely like undermine those things that we need to work on. And when we think about it too much, we kind of manipulate ourselves into thinking, well, you know, it's not that important. I don't think it will result in anything crazy or significant at all. So I was wondering, could you give us an example of like the things that we don't do or that we need to be doing? And most importantly, the impact and result it would make in our walk if we worked on the things that we tend to just undermine, ignore, and just, you know, not do?
All right, I can answer half that question. All right, the first half I can't answer because it's very specific to you, to each individual, to say what you need to work on, all right? Because what you might need to work on is maybe not what the next person behind you or the next to you, whatever needs to work on. But what I can tell you is this, the impact, all right, the impact. This is one of those urban legends. They were interviewing a elite musician, piano player, right? Elite pianist. And the pianist said, look, if I don't practice, if I miss one day of practice, I'll know it. If I miss several days of practice, the audience will know it. Okay? So little things can have a big impact at some point. Because you may think, I'm a professional. I'm the best in the world. So I can skip a day of practice. But will it make an impact? Not much, but some. You let that go on and on for a while, it'll make a huge impact, okay? You might be like, well, you know, I can eat this thing that I know is really, I know some of you that have definite intolerances to certain foods, but yet I see you eating it sometimes because you'll convince yourself that, well, it's just a little, it's not gonna, and then you have a problem, but you ignore the fact that you can't eat that, okay? But you'll do it anyway. I'm watching people I know, not recently, so I don't want you to think I'm talking about you, but I've watched people that I know are diabetic eating stuff that I know they shouldn't be eating. They're sitting there chomping down all these desserts and everything else. I'm like, okay. And yet, I'm like, but you know you have a problem. You're diabetic, okay? So when you ask the question, there are little things that you should be looking for because they are going to impact you. And the more of them there are, the more it's going to impact you. But the fact that it's over time, even if it's just one or two little things, it's going to have an impact on you over time, okay? Even if it's just a little bit all the time, okay? So that's where you want to look at your life and say, okay, this is the key. What am I rational lying to myself that it's okay that I'm not doing this, or it's okay that I'm doing this, it's not that big a deal? Because that's the way you worded it, right? So then you do this, you said manipulation, but it's really just making this lie that sounds rational to yourself. Oh, it's a very reasonable thing to say. It's not really bothering me that much. It's not really making that much of a deal. But those are compromises, and it does talk about compromising in the verses we read today. And so you guys don't want to be in a place where you're compromising, all right? And so only you can examine you. Ask him to help show you. Pray when you pray about it. That's something certainly you should pray about, okay? Hey, where am I lying to myself? This is the whole Level Up program to help you look at all 7 areas of your life and say, what can I do more? What can I fix? What can I improve? What can I grow in that area? Instead of saying, well, I'm doing pretty good, Then what's going to kill all your growth? Good enough. Good enough is death to growth. All right, that's good enough. How's your health? That's good enough. How's your money? That's good enough. How are your relationships? They're good enough. They're okay. Okay is not a good place to be. Okay is a good temporary place to be. Because maybe I got it to okay from not good. Okay? So it's the context of when I'm saying okay, it's okay. As opposed to, it's okay. It was terrible. Now it's okay. It's heading in the right direction.
So I just wanted to agree, just give a personal testimony in my own life when you were talking about being ready to receive, like in therapy. And I had some sessions with Janet to deal with, I don't know if that I knew what I wanted to deal with. Probably just working on childhood trauma stuff. It was a very inconvenient time. But I knew inside myself that now is the time ministries, I knew it was the time to work on it. Like my body was screaming at me, it's time to deal with this.
Right.
When I met with Janet, she remarked during some of the sessions that she thought my brain was really ready to change. And I just want to say I agree. I mean, in hindsight, I see now, like what you were saying, that you have to be ready to receive in order for the change to work. It has to be the right time. And I think that also goes with when you talk about looking at the teachings over again and how we get something different out of it because we're different. And we're ready to receive something else, something new. So I just, want to thank you for letting Yahweh speak through you and for you being passionate and having contagious passion. And it's always something new and exciting, and even from your past self. So thank you for that.
Amen. Look, one thing I can tell you, and I think this is part of the reason why the teachings have some level of impact, is that there's no phoniness to my passion. When I teach and you hear me get a little excited or loud about something, it's genuine. It's not for show, it's not performative, okay? And there certainly are speaking training courses that'll teach you to get louder, get softer, do this, do that. It's just what's coming out of me, all right? And so I think it's important, if you're gonna speak, it's gotta be something you care about, okay? Because how are you gonna have anybody else care about it if you don't care about it, okay? There's not gonna be the impact you want. Because they'll be like, I don't get the idea that he cares about it, why should I care about it? Okay, so, I appreciate that you pointed that out.
Can we have something from each of the 7 churches that we need to work on? One thing from group 1 and one thing from group 2, like the 7 areas of life?
I will consider doing something like that maybe in the future. Right now, remember, that is not the point of the teaching. The point is really dealing with HaSatan and the devil and the idea that's mentioned here in the 7. And so we're only really focusing primarily on that and how it might play out in each one. In other words, what aspect of that is being dealt with, right? So can we do that? I'm sure we could do that at some point. Remember, I don't generally, at this point yet, feel like I've been given a green light to just teach things like the book of Revelation as a teaching in itself, okay? We're here because HaSatan and the devil are mentioned multiple times, and so we're dealing with why they're being mentioned, okay? And they come up again in chapter 3 in a couple of places, so in 2 places, in 2 verses, so we'll deal with that.
From Olivia in chapter 2, verse 5. So remember where you have fallen. Does this mean know yourself and where you have sinned in the past? Remember your weakest points?
Well, no, it says remember from where. Okay, in other words, remember how high up you were. Okay, you used to be here, and now you're here. You fell, which means that you know how to be up here. Okay, so verse 5 says, so remember from where you have fallen, and then repent of whatever caused you to fall. You were higher up. You messed up some things that you didn't repent of. Then now you're down here. Fix them. You'll be back up here. Okay, so that's what it's talking about there, okay?
Another one from Olivia. So am I seeing this right? The devil doesn't make you do anything, but the adversarial devil in us does it, meaning our thoughts and actions, the mindset we can have is adversarial and devil-like?
Yes. Okay, so remember, in the definitions, when you are slandering, when you are misrepresenting the truth, when you are attacking somebody's character or reputation, you're acting like a devil. When you are acting as adversary to whatever Yah is doing, then you're acting like Satan. But those are all things that are in you. Now, what does the devil do or Satan do? Well, encourages you in that direction if it's in you. If it's in you, encourages you to run with it, okay? If it's not in you, there's nothing to encourage you to do. I mean, I'm sure people have come up to me to try to have me do drugs or drink or whatever, and I've just always not been interested, so that's that, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure there were some attempts to try, but they were useless because I had no interest, right? But there are other things that trip me up on a regular basis. I'm sure Satan is certainly behind password problems. Okay? At least in my life. Because I have witnesses, including Elder, that he can't understand sometimes why I'll type something that makes no sense why it's not working. He's witnessed it. It is bizarre. Okay? But that's only because it really gets to me. Until I overcome that, that's still something that's there. And I'm working on it. I'm getting better. Okay? But that's just to give you, and I know it sounds like a dumb thing, but that's just to give you an example, right?
From Rachel Espino, and I'm going to ask these. I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, but she's got some specific questions. She says, in the first one, I've seen and noticed in the last few months that I have, like the assembly of Ephesus, become like one going through the motions. How do we get back to that first love change of heart?
All of this is the same problem that you guys come up with. It simply takes the observe, learn, adjust thing, okay? So 2 things. One is, what did it look like when you had the first love? Why did you have the first love, and why don't you have it now? What is it in your life that's changed? Or your thought about it, your feelings about it, your approach to it, or your experience with it? Something has changed. Even if it's just the way you're perceiving it and the way you're looking at it. Maybe nothing actually has changed in terms of the mechanics of the people around you, what you're doing, everything else. But there's a reason why you've gone from first love to taking it for granted, complacent. What happened? Okay, and if you were counseling with me, that's what I would be digging down under and saying, okay, well, what was it like before? What's it like now? What do you think caused the change? What is going on? Only person who knows the answer to that is you. I can't answer that. I can help you dig it out by getting you to ask the questions in yourself anyway. So you don't need me to do that. You can do it yourself. But something changed. You got to figure out what it is. Something happened, or something, even if it didn't actually, like an event didn't happen, but just something internally. Your feelings, your thoughts, your approach, your passion, whatever it is, something changed, okay? Probably an event. Probably an interaction with somebody did something that got you to just be jaded in some way and lose that passion, all right? Or you may go back and realize that the passion wasn't anything more than just surface. We call that, like back in the day, we called it like a crush, you know, or puppy love, that kind of stuff. Like, it's just a crush. It's a surface thing. It doesn't have any real basis. It's just a surface level thing that emotions got stirred up because you were wowed by the way somebody looked or somebody did something or whatever, and that wowed you, but there was no depth to it because you didn't even know them yet, right? So you had a crush. Okay, some of you know what that's like. I won't look at anybody in the eyes, but but you have a crush. But there's no basis to it because you don't have enough of a relationship to really have a deeper thing than that. And so maybe your first love was a crush. Do you know there's a parable? What parable do you think covers that? The sower, the seed. Very good. So when you have the one where it says that basically it got blown away because there were no roots, that's a crush. They got all excited, right, at first, right? All excited, but no roots, okay? Here it is, Matthew 13, right? So it says, listen to the crush, right, Matthew 13. It says, and those sown in the rocky places, this is the one who hears the word and it has a crush and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but is short-lived when the pressure or persecution comes. So that's what probably happens here, Rachel. I mean, you know, you got all excited. That's something that may be the case here. But that's not got longevity to it because there's no root to it. So you may be wondering, why am I all complacent now? Because you never got the roots in there, okay? Some of your marriages have that problem. Somehow you just never really got the roots in there good, okay? Because I might ask some of you, why'd you get married? And you can't even tell me why. Well, why'd you marry him? Why'd you marry her? You know, okay? I don't know.
All right, and this is another one from Rachel. It's the last one that we have. It's 2 parts. So what does this passion look like? How do we recognize the passion when it may look different now? I suppose it looks different for everyone. Is the very fact I don't want to lose the passion an indication I haven't lost it, but that it just manifests differently?
All right. So when it becomes a task or a job or work, the passion's missing. Does that make any sense? So like, for example, let's say you liked playing an instrument, but then it became arduous and a work and a task to practice and this and that. Like you watch any movie about some athlete or musician where somehow they've lost their passion and it's become a job and a task, and somebody has to wake up and say, remember when you first started, the joy of the game, the joy of playing the music. Okay, that's the passion. Because we can just have our mind shifts in such a way that we miss the point, okay? You know why I do what I do the way I do for so long and why I don't see ever stopping is because this is something that's a passion for me. I've never lost that passion. It doesn't get drudgery to me. It doesn't get arduous to me. It doesn't become a task, okay? Which is why Elder will tell you why I often, even when it comes to counseling and everything else, keep saying yes to people even when I should just go home. Because my passion is to help and to answer questions and to serve and all that kind of thing. So when you ask the question like, well, you know, is the very fact that I don't want to lose the passion indication I haven't lost the passion? It has nothing to do with what you feel about the passion. How do you feel about the thing? Okay? Don't worry about if you have passion or don't have passion. How do you feel about it? Do you look for reasons not to do it? The passion's missing. Do you look for any excuse to avoid it? The passion's missing. When you have the passion, it's kind of like this. I told the story many times. My daughter, probably 5, 6, 7 years old, and she's singing in the house, and my son is like, when will she ever stop singing? So he goes to me, does she always have to sing? And I said, yes. Why? Because she had the passion. Okay? When you have the passion, you're going to find every excuse to do as opposed to avoid. If you don't have the passion, almost anything will get in the way. Does that make any sense to anybody? Okay, when you have the passion, you will find a way. See, that's the old, if you want it bad enough, you'll figure out a way, right? And so you don't look for, I'm checking my passion level. No, just see how much do you want to do it, okay? If you were listening to teachings on a regular basis, now you forget most of the time and hardly ever listen to a teaching, you don't have the passion like you used to, okay? If there was no way you'd miss a service and now you use almost any excuse to stay home, the passion is diminished. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying if you miss for a reason. I'm saying if you look for almost anything will give you an excuse. Just like the places that shut down, I think they don't have the passion. If you're going to close services for almost any reason, there's no passion there, or it's weak, all right? It's missing, okay? Now, I'm just trying to make that's probably the best way to answer that. So Rachel, hopefully that answered, okay? So don't look at your passion level, look at how you feel about the thing that you're doing or not doing. Do you look at it as drudgery, task, something to avoid, wishing you didn't have to do it? That's not passion, okay? That's not passion. When you see the child that's not doing their homework because they're playing some game, where's their passion? For the homework or the game? Okay? But if you tell them, do this homework, and you get to, then they all of a sudden have a passion for the homework because they have a reason, excitement to do it. But is it really the passion for the homework? No, it's still a passion for the game, okay? My brother was a reader. I don't know if he still reads a lot, but when I was growing up, he was a reader. Anytime that you wanted to find him, he was sitting reading. That's a passion. It's what you are going to default to and go to and run to, okay? I prefer my wife to be around me. That's a passion. I like her being in my presence. I like her being around. I like her being with me. Even if we're not necessarily doing anything, I just like her to be there. Why? Because I have a passion for that. Now, there are those that if you get into a marriage situation where your life is not going so well with your spouse, where you seem to avoid them. You know, my experience with couples, I'll give you an example of a couple, I won't name them or anything, but a couple that's divorced now. One of the signs that was early on in that divorce, before it got there, is the husband started staying at work. He wasn't cheating or anything, he just was avoiding coming home. Do you think there's a lack of passion there? Or the wife has started to avoid being when the husband's home? Well, the avoidance is, clearly there's a lack of passion, right? When you had that first love, you wanted to be with each other all the time. And you were calling each other all the time, and or now they're texting all the time, and you're doing all these emojis and everything. Are you still doing that? Okay. Or do you stop? You know? As a way of handling my ADD, I have this little stupid game where I color pictures, but I only color ones that she'll like, and then I send them to her. Some of you went, aw. But it's just one of those things that she just thinks is adorable and sweet that I still care. All right? My daughter asked me one time, do you even like coloring? I said, no. It's just something that occupies my mind while I'm processing other stuff. It's a mindless thing to do, okay? But as long as I'm gonna do it, I don't color for me. I'll think of, she'll like this, and I'll color this thing, and then it's one of those things where you can then share it to her text. Even after 27 years, she still gets them, okay? All of a sudden she'll hear her phone ding, and then she won't answer, and I'll be like, did I hear a ding? And she's like, oh, did you send me something? I thought I heard a ding. You know, that's passion, okay? That's passion. All right, that's gonna wrap it up. Hope that was good for everybody.